Hey guys, welcome to Real Talk Weekly with Josh and Harry. Tonight we'll be speaking about new versus old, what you should be buying. Stay tuned.
Good evening.
Good evening, hey everyone. How are we?
Good. It's been a bit of a busy Monday. I don't like using the B word, but
it has definitely. And I think an interesting topic, new versus old. We've obviously got a few new developments coming to completion amongst the northern beaches. So it's always a topic of discussion we find with buyers, don't we, Has?
Yeah.
In relation to new versus old. So we thought, sort of post-budget, what do those changes look like? Typically, what are your advantages or disadvantages buying new and old? So we thought we'll go through those and definitely leave you with a few options on the table of why considering each. So brand new we've got the Casa del Mar. We've both purchased in there as investments. Obviously, I think we start first with the budget. Obviously, those changes coming in budget night, no negative gearing, changes to your capital gains discount. Luckily enough, for those purchasing off the plan, you will still be able to negatively gear your property, and you will also still be able to benefit from the 50% off your capital gains discount once holding over 12 months. So the idea from the government there is to incentivize purchasers to pay higher prices for brand new, therefore making these projects feasible for developers. They thought that they'd extend good faith to new developments with these benefits. And obviously, when you make a comparison, in regards to holding cost, old versus new. This is a big one. Obviously, under this new system, you can only carry rental losses forward into rental gains. So what that means for you guys is essentially if you're buying a property now and that property is returning a negative return year on year, so meaning your rental income doesn't cover the costs of running the units, your strata cost, obviously your mortgage being the big one, that loss can only be captured on a gain. So generally what that means, guys, is you're essentially now going to be holding a property for roughly 8 to 10 years. We worked out the figures, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, roughly as an average. Before you've chipped away enough at that mortgage that the rental income is now at a surplus. And essentially what will happen is you'll carry those losses forward. So you won't be paying, an income tax on that income until you've used up all your losses over those previous years. Obviously, with where rates are in the market, where median house prices are, as an example, a 2-bedroom at 1.2 million, you're probably looking at, with a 10% deposit in there, shortcomings of around 3,000 to 4,000 per month, and then obviously being brand new, you've got the benefits of depreciation. For someone like myself, you're probably looking at anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000 in annual losses, so that's massive on negative gearing front. Probably one of the biggest differences between the two, I would find, new versus brand old in terms of holding cost is that aspect there.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on it?
And then there's the other spectrum of looking at things when you're buying something that's a little bit older. Your typical 1960s to the 1990s blocks, which are quite common in DY, particularly. If you want to buy something to move into, buy something as an investment. What's beautiful about buying something like that in today's market is you can really capitalize and buy something at a very, very fair and good price. Prime example is a property we just recently exchanged on Francis Street, 2-bedroom apartment, just transacted for $800,000 on the dot. which just shows you where the entry level price points are, for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. So, someone like us, Josh, first home buyers trying to get into the market, you're contemplating between buying and paying that extra for a premium, and you've listed most of the benefits for that, or alternatively, play it with a little bit of risk, buy something a little bit older, might be more immune to problems and whatnot, but you are saving a lot of money on your property like that.
Price, yeah. I mean, I think the other side that people are starting to begin to notice with this older properties, or the older properties, are that they're probably coming to an age where some major works are coming up.
Yeah.
So correct, Harry, you're looking at 2 properties, 5-minute walk distance apart, one for 800, 2 better, another 2 better, 1.2. We're seeing it throughout DY, a lot of suburbs, big balcony upgrades. These are costing levies anywhere between sort of 40, 50,000. I've seen some as high as 80, 100,000. So
fire safety upgrades, your typical water ingress, your concrete cancer, quite common. The other side as well is your return on investment. In my experience of just crunching numbers with a lot of the older properties, tend to give you a much higher return on investment as opposed to the newer stuff, because you're paying for a premium. When buying something newly established or off the plan, your general return on investment, wouldn't be as high. The positives are, you won't be, from a maintenance side of things, you won't be, needing to replace a dishwasher or any of the appliances or fix anything major in the apartment if you're buying something for the purpose of investment, that is. But the return on investment for, again, going back to the one in Francis Street, you can rent that out anywhere between that $700 to $750 mark. So the purchaser that bought it to, at that $800,000 price, it'd still be negative gearing, but it wouldn't take too long before that's positively geared down the track. So you've got that other aspect with your income stream. Your return on investment with the older places is generally a lot higher because you're able to capitalize at a very good price, especially right now in the current market.
Yeah, and I think another thing that buyers have to take into account is it's expensive to renovate these days. I've got a client. Bought a beautiful original apartment down in Oaks Avenue, did a laundry, did a bathroom, did a kitchen.
50 Gs.
120. So they did some new flooring, just carpet. They did a laundry, did a bathroom, did a kitchen. I wouldn't call it a full reno, but bits and pieces. But wow. Look, they did it properly. But yeah, I think that's probably something on the extreme end, but something definitely to look out for. Obviously, with the processes of going through strata approvals, I think that's also something to consider when comparing against new and old. Is upgrading and renovation cost. I mean, it's not cheap. It's hard to find a tradie, let alone if they're available.
Yeah.
And the prices and cost of materials are at a point now where it's quite easy to spend the money, and all of a sudden you're knocking on close to the territory of some brand new stuff out there. But yeah, I think massive things to consider in the marketplace are the benefits that are given to new property. That adjustment, or that need to look at these older blocks coming to a point in their life where there's some major works to come on. Obviously, the other side of that is brand new. You really don't know the integrity of the building until time has passed. So that's the risk there. And the other side of the spectrum, you're buying old. You might know what you're in for. You're buying new. It could be great for the next 5 years, or 3 years down the track, there might be something that you're not aware of, and you can't be aware of until the inspection, or, until it's located or found, until history's made. So
and then I think another very critical thing, which I just wanted to quickly touch base with, that worked very well with me, is when you're buying something off the plan, guys, if you're a first home buyer, regardless if you're looking to live in it or have it as an investment, something that's worked very well for me is when you exchange on your contract, when you're buying something, let's say at the very start of the project, of the development, and let's say it will take 2 years to finish the construction phase, that is, you can actually put a deposit up front when you exchange on the when you exchange your contracts. Then you can pay, then you'll have a year and a half or 2 year gap where you can then pay within you can then save and pay the remaining 5%, which is something that you can negotiate with your conveyancer on the contract. So having that time ability is almost like your best friend and works very, very well in your favor.
Yeah, there's so many ways we could dissect this. Yeah. Then there's the other way of buying off the plan. You've also got, measurements that have allowances. So I think there's about up to 5%, whatever you see on a floor plan, that doesn't have to be exactly the way that it's presented to a buyer. So there's that to take account of. Obviously, with existing or established, you see it, you touch it, you feel it, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
So there's always that aspect. Another good one that Harry, you were touching on there. Sorry, is the fact that you can expose yourself to market growth and off the plan by just putting down a 5 or 10% deposit.
Yeah.
Depending on the deal, expose yourself to the growth. If it's something that you're not ready to take on in terms of a mortgage at the current time, it gives you a bit of preparation time, I feel, to be ready for the big event. And generally, these processes, can take anywhere between sort of 1 to 3 years. Again, the other flip side of that is you never really have a concrete end date or completion date. So
yes,
I know
which can work in your favor. Again, the longer settlement takes, the more time you have to save for a deposit. So if you're someone just trying to save as much as you can, so you've got a little bit of cash left over after you've exchanged, then sometimes a delayed settlement can work in your favor
or not. If you're renting a place and waiting for it to be finished, or you've sold your property ready to move in.
That's it.
Look, those are the type of hurdles you have to jump over. Yeah. But look, some clear benefits and disadvantages to both old versus new. I guess it just comes down to your personal preference. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve out of the property? So I think it all comes down to individual criteria, needs, wants, etc. And there's clear advantages to both sides, really. So dependent on the buyer, but it'll be very interesting to see all this new stock. Obviously, there's some talks around these mega towers coming into Brookvale. So
32-story, 33-story buildings.
Yeah, I think
3 of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So there'll definitely be some choice amongst the market, I think. We've seen stock come down during the recent markets and turns of events. So it'll be interesting to see how this complex market works itself out.
And just to give you an idea, ladies and gents, for those of you that don't know, the tallest building on the Northern Beaches is the Meriton. That's 14 levels.
16.
There you go. 16 levels in the Meriton. So Brookvale is going to build something potentially that's double the size.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's for sure. But guys, if you ever have any questions around new versus old, we're pretty experienced in dabbling with both sides of the spectrum, and having gone through the process of off the plan and buying existing property, there's definitely some tricks and tools that we can pass on to any buyers, and we'd love to help anyone out there in the community if we can. So feel free, just do a friendly chat. If you need any tips, developments that I think are great upcomers, I think the one down in Manlyvale, we've got the Coda project. It's just going to be, it's going to be rare sites like that, where majority of the sites, new sites we're looking at coming forward, are probably going to be bigger, much bigger than what we're used to. And I think if you can find anything small like that, done by Coco Republic or in conjunction with Coco Republic, I think stuff like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But guys, feel free to reach out. Clear differences and advantages between new versus old, especially with the budget changes. Guys, have a great night.
Enjoy your evening.
Pleasure speaking to you.
Your week.
Yes,
Take
that's
care,
right.
guys.
See you
Love
guys.
ya.
Bye.